President Trump and Pentagon officials are claiming success after the U.S. launched strikes on Iran over the weekend, and people at a church in southern Michigan were able to avert a mass shooting yesterday. Good morning, I'm Corva Coleman from NPR News, and here are today's top stories. Top members of President Trump's cabinet say the U.S. strikes this weekend on 3 Iranian nuclear sites were just that. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others say the attacks were not intended for a change in Iran's regime. But writing online yesterday, President Trump said if Iran's leaders cannot make their country great again, quote, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Meanwhile, Trump and the Pentagon say the 3 U.S. strikes were a major success, as NPR's Greg Myrie reports.
The U.S. used B-2 stealth bombers to drop 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs on 2 Iranian nuclear sites, Fordo and Natanz. A submarine fired Tomahawk missiles at a 3rd nuclear site in Isfahan. The U.S. planes flew round-trip from an airbase near Kansas City. President Trump said the attacks totally obliterated the Iranian nuclear sites. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, offered a slightly different take, saying the strikes caused severe damage and destruction. But he said it was too soon to know whether Iran had lost all of its nuclear capability. Iran has fired additional missiles at Israel, but has not acted against any U.S. targets. Greg Myrie, NPR News, Washington.
The State Department says it has organized 2 evacuation flights out of Israel carrying 70 Americans and green card holders. There are hundreds of thousands of Americans living in Israel. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports many are now asking about their options to leave.
On the same day that the U.S. dropped massive bombs on Iranian nuclear sites, joining Israel's war there, the U.S. ambassador to Israel took to social media to encourage American citizens to sign up for information about evacuation flights. Ambassador Mike Huckabee wrote that his team is working around the clock to assist American citizens. He encouraged them to fill out a form on travel.state.gov. The State Department says so far it has provided information to 27,000 people, and a few thousand of them have said they're interested in leaving Israel. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
Columbia University graduate student Mahmoud Khalil is now free on bail. He spent more than 3 months in detention. Khalil was detained as the first of several students who had peacefully protested against the war in Gaza. Khalil says he was taken by men wearing masks.
It felt like kidnapping, to be honest. You have plainclothes agents in unmarked cars, not identifying themselves, claiming to have an arrest warrant that they did not show.
He spoke to NPR's Morning Edition. The Department of Homeland Security says his detention was legal. Khalil is a legal permanent resident of the U.S. The DHS is urging him to self-deport. A federal judge in Nashville has ruled that migrant Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was wrongly deported to El Salvador, can be released on bail. From member station WPLN in Nashville, Mariana Bacallao reports he may not go free.
The judge has ordered that Abrego Garcia be released as he awaits trial on human smuggling charges. But the 29-year-old who was wrongly deported from Maryland to El Salvador in March may go into ICE custody instead, officials say. In her ruling, the judge writes that the government failed to prove that Abrego Garcia was a flight risk. Prosecutors say that Abrego Garcia smuggled people without legal status for the MS-13 gang. The defense says that the charges are to distract from the lack of due process in Abrego Garcia's case. The conditions of his release will be discussed at a hearing scheduled for Wednesday. For NPR News, I'm Mariana Bacallao in Nashville.
Authorities in southern Michigan say that people at a church were able to avert a mass shooting yesterday. A man driving recklessly got out of his car and then opened fire toward the church in Wayne, Michigan. He hit one person in the leg. A churchgoer then struck the man with his car. After that, at least 2 staff members at the church opened fire. They killed the armed man. No one else was injured in the incident. Police in Michigan say the man's motive is not clear. A federal judge in San Antonio has ruled that the state of Texas has been illegally placing people with severe disabilities in nursing homes. Texas Public Radio's Dan Katz reports the judge gave the state of Texas and the plaintiffs till August 1st to propose a fix to the violations.
U.S. District Judge Orlando Garcia found that the state of Texas for decades unnecessarily institutionalized 4,500 people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in nursing homes, denying them appropriate services that are required under federal law. Garcia called the problem severe and ongoing, dating back to a statute Congress passed in 1987 that requires screening to identify community programs instead of automatically institutionalizing people.
And while they're there, we're not getting even minimally adequate levels of services that is required by federal law.
That's Stephen Schwartz, special counsel at the Center for Public Representation. He filed a class action lawsuit 15 years ago and called the ruling a landmark decision. I'm Dan Katz in San Antonio.
The National Weather Service says the first significant heat wave is rippling over parts of the central and eastern U.S. this morning. There are heat advisories posted from eastern Texas to New England. National Weather Service meteorologist Brian Hurley says it will be 15 to 20 degrees hotter than usual.
Very unusual in June to have temperatures certainly greater than 95 or even 100 degrees or greater, 101, 102. And it's not just that, it's also the overnight lows.
Heat values will be above 100 degrees in St. Louis, northern Indiana, and even Boston today. This heat is expected to last through the weekend. It will persist in some areas well into next week. The Oklahoma City Thunder claimed its first NBA championship last night in a Game 7 victory. From member station KOSU, Abigail Sikowski was on the ground for the celebration.
That's the sound of Oklahoma City Thunder fans celebrating their squad's first championship. Sip Alvarez was among the crowd at a local bar for the game. He says he never expected to experience a victory like this.
We're breaking through the boundaries of what people would call a small city, and we're ready. Very proud to be an Oklahoman. Very proud they entrusted us with a team and that we've come this far.
Alvarez works as a painting contractor in OKC, but he says he's not expecting his employees to come into work today as they celebrate the victory. As Oklahoma City's only Big Four sports franchise, this is the city's first ever major championship in a professional sport. For NPR News, I'm Abigail Sikowski in Oklahoma City.
I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.